Hi everybody, it's Wendy here from Living Lēla. So I wanted to bring to you today a basic yoga for fertility practice that is just really meant to start to release tension and to move some energy through. So this time of the year can tend to bring up some emotions and grief with lots of festivities around us, and so it might start to sometimes feel like there's some bent up energy or emotions, or we're feeling kind of a sense of heaviness because of our emotional state. And so this practice is just meant to help support you through and navigate that. So we're going to begin. So go find a place on your yoga mat if you have one. And if you have some yoga props available to you, you could certainly integrate those into the practice. I'll be using them some. If you have blocks, those are always handy. If you don't have a bolster, you could use blanket folds, towel folds. So just know you can always start to get creative in that way. So first, find a comfortable seat. And if you find that when you're seated cross-legged like I am, that your knees are kind of lifting up, it's just telling you that there's some tightness in the hips. Also, if you feel like you're kind of getting pulled back, you might have some tightness in your hamstrings and your spine. And so if you are experiencing that, you can always take your blanket folds or your pillow or what have you, and you can start to seat yourself up on that. And then you may find as we progress into the practice that you want to get rid of that. So I'm going to actually start here on the bolster. Take a moment to feel your body in space and to begin to just feel your foundation, which is the pelvic bowl, the sit bones, the outer hips and glutes. If it's comfortable, you can close your eyes, and if not, you can soften the gaze down upon your cheeks. Begin to notice your breath. And take a full breath in through your nose. Exhale through the mouth. And again, a sweet breath in through the nose. And exhale through the mouth. And then begin to invite your breathing to move in through the nose and out through the nose if possible. So in our practice of yoga for fertility, we start to integrate different breath works used in yoga. And one of the ones that we often integrate is called Ujjayi Pranayama, which means breath of victory or victorious breathing. And this is a diaphragmatic breathing. It has a myriad of benefits. It's such a lovely tool to have just on the journey of life, but in particular, the journey of fertility, because it can begin to calm the entire central nervous system pretty immediately. So as we just exhaled through the mouth, we created a sound similar to the ocean waves or wind in the trees. That's exactly what's happening with Ujjayi breath, except that the lips are softly sealed. So it's that same kind of aspirated ha sound, like when we said, but keeping the lips sealed, and then trying to find that same sound and feeling on the inhale. And then on the exhale. So just see if you're able to cultivate that conscious diaphragmatic breathing throughout the practice. If not, don't worry about it. Just breathe consciously in and out through your nose. Begin to float your palms to your heart center. Allow your thumbs to rest against your chest. Allow your chest to rise up to meet your thumbs so that you feel that your heart space begins to open a little bit more. Gently bowing the head and taking this moment to set a conscious intention for your practice today. And just keep in mind your intention is just something you place your attention upon. And this could be a word or a phrase or an offering, but it's 100% for you for this time that you're dedicating to yourself in your practice. And once you have that for yourself, gently lift your head. And release the hands down, opening the eyes to a soft gaze. So as we breathe consciously with your hands on your thighs, begin to circle your torso, over the rim of your pelvis. And as you do this, you're exhaling as you draw back, you're inhaling as you draw forward. And so if you imagine your pelvis as a pot of stew or soup, and your torso is the ladle by which you're stirring it with. So we're just beginning to really move some energy in and around the second chakra, which houses the reproductive organs, as well as kind of opening up that low back area and hips. So moving on your breath. And you can make these circles as big or small as feels good in your body. But you're initiating the movement from deep in the belly, behind and below the navel. And then you're going to reverse and go the other way, exhaling back, inhaling forward. And really this movement is more about just what feels good. It's not about getting it right. It's about really sensing into a flow, an ease. One more cycle here. And then coming back to center, back to neutral. I'm going to slide the bolster out from behind me. I feel a little bit better on my sit bones for this next one. So we're going to do a little bit of thoracic rotation, trying to ease some tension in the upper thoracic, kind of the heart space, front and back. So you'll take a breath in, sitting up tall, and as you exhale, you're going to take your right hand, like you're trying to reach around the front of your right knee, and turn your chest to the left. And then inhale back to center. And then we'll do the left side. It's like you're trying to reach for something. As you reach your left hand around the front of your left knee, and then inhaling back to center. And exhale. Inhale back to center. Exhale, keeping the spine tall. And exhale back to center. One more each side. And then just note which leg is crossed in front right now for you. Take a moment, stretch your legs out, give them a little wiggle waggle, a little shake. Maybe rolling the ankles, wiggling the toes. Then you're going to switch the crossing of your legs. Bring your fingertips out beside you towards the floor. So if you're still sitting up on your bolster or blanket, it's fine. Begin to inhale, sweep your right fingertips across the front of your body towards your left hand. And on your exhale, you're going to root down through your sit bones and lift up through your spine all the way up and over. So a little bit of lateral stretch there. Left side, inhale, sweeping the fingertips across. And exhale, reaching all the way up. Inhale. And exhale. So starting to open up that side body, so the intercostal muscles, the space between the ribs. This is an area that can kind of hold grief, the heart space, the lungs, that whole kind of area of that part of the body can begin to hold grief. So we're just starting to kind of open up and stretch into and breathe into these areas. One more each side. Lovely. Bring your hands to your belly with your thumbs at your navel and your index fingers touching. And on your inhale, start to trace your fingers up the front of the spine until your fingertips reach your third eye or brow. Then start to open up the arms into a wide V. As you exhale, trace your fingertips back down that same line from the third eye, front of the heart, all the way down towards the belly here. Inhale. Shoulders are soft, and exhale. Moving on the rhythm of your breath, opening up the arms, and exhale. And then with your hands on your belly, stack your left hand on top of your right hand and begin to circle your hands in a clockwise direction. So if you're wondering what that is, that's towards your right ovary and up and around. So we're moving in this clockwise direction. That's also just to honor the natural kind of energetics of our digestion. Just starting to kind of bring some warmth, sense of nurturing, attention into the area of the second and third chakras as we start to come up here. We're at the solar plexus. And breathing. Something this simple can just feel so nice, you know, when you're a kid and your belly hurt you. Sometimes your mom or dad would kind of rub your belly. It just feels really nice. And we're just starting to kind of tune inward and connect inward a little bit more. And then you're going to slide your hands to your low back sacrum, which is this kind of flat triangular area of your lowest part of your back, and just start to massage. Just kind of take the palms of your hands, the heels of your hands, your fingertips, and start to massage this area. So we have a ganglia of nerve endings that originate at the sacral plexus, and they wrap around and feed the reproductive organs. So we have acupressure points back here. It's an area that we just want to draw some attention to and activate. Okay. Now we're going to reposition to hands and knees, tabletop position. If you do have your blocks, if you have blocks, you're just going to have them handy towards the front edge of your mat. And if you tend to have tender knees, you can always take a folded blanket across, which I'm just going to go ahead and do because I do have cranky knees. So you can always kind of cushion your body in the ways that you need to. So finding a tabletop positioning here, spread your fingers bright and begin to press the tops of your feet down upon the floor. So we're going to do cat-cow, but we're going to reverse what is classically done with the breath, just to create a little bit more space in the upper thoracic, the back of the heart. So on your inhale, begin to round your upper mid-back up towards the sky and drop your head. And as you exhale, elongate your spine, drawing your chest forward. Inhale, rounding up. And exhale, pulling forward. Moving on your rhythm. Two more. And last one here. And then begin to circle your hips. So the cat-cow, the kind of undulation of the spine we were just doing, is going to be present in the movement we're creating now. It's just that the hips are going to initiate the movement. The spine is going to respond. So imagine that you had a paintbrush on the end of your tailbone and a canvas behind you, and that you were trying to paint a big circle on that canvas. And again, you're going to feel into what feels best in your body in regards to how big or small the circle is. And you're just going to let your head do what feels good. And then reversing and going the other way, which may feel a little bit awkward at first. We're usually one side dominant. So we're just kind of integrating some of these circular movements into the practice to move energy, to stir energy, to wake and warm the spine, the low back, the hips, the contents of the pelvis. But also, if we think about just feminine versus masculine energies, masculine is very linear in nature, right? Just kind of from point A to point B, straight line. And the feminine and divine feminine, the essence of the divine feminine, is more circular in nature, or spiral. So we're just kind of tapping into that here. And then coming back to center, back to neutral, we're going to bring the big toes together and the knees apart. Start to shift your hips back for child's pose. And we're going to do this just a little bit different maybe than a normal child's pose. If you do have a block handy, I want you to take it the wide way in front of you, laying on the mat. And try to elongate your spine as much as you can. And so for some people, if you have tightness anywhere in the body, it can kind of make your low back round a little bit like this. And I want you to try to spread your sit bones and get your sit bones spreading behind you and lifting. For some people, that's going to mean that you need to lift your tushy in the air, and that's okay. So as we're here, begin to rest your forehead down on the mat. Grab the block that's between your palms there, and begin to pick it up and take it any amount behind your head. And then walk your elbows forward and rest your forehead back down on the mat. So we're starting to stretch into the upper back, the triceps, back of the heart. It's an area that can hold a lot of tension for many of us. Two more breaths here. And then very gently release the block. Slide your hands directly underneath your shoulders like you're about to do a push-up. Shrug your shoulders away from your ears, and then with a flat back, gently rise up. Beautiful. So we're going to start to flow a little bit more now. So do have your blocks, if you have them handy, on either side of the front edge of your mat. I'm just going to scooch my blanket back a little bit here. And then we're going to come back to that hands and knees tabletop position. So here, you're going to inhale, elongate your spine forward. Exhale as you round your spine, push your hips back towards your heels. It's a child's pose, so we're not going to be hanging out here. Inhale, rocking forward, elongate your spine and broaden your collarbones. Exhale, drop your head, round your upper back, and push your hips towards your heels, child's pose. Moving on the rhythm of your breath, inhale. And exhale. Inhale, rocking forward, straight arms, broad chest. And exhale. So now we're going to add on to this. Inhale, rocking forward, curl the toes under. Exhale, lift your hips up and back to a bent knee, downward facing dog. Inhale, look between your hands, rock forward like you're going to go into plank, but you're lowering your knees down with control. Exhale, uncurl toes, child's pose. Inhale, rocking forward, chest leads, curl the toes. Exhale, lift your sit bones up and back. Inhale, looking forward, rocking forward, lowering the knees down. exhale, child's pose. We're going to do 2 more on the rhythm of the breath. So you're just moving on your own rhythm. Inhale here. Exhale, lift. You can keep your knees bent if your hamstrings feel tight. Inhale. And exhale. So we'll meet back up in downward facing dog. As you're here, spread your fingers right. Let your hands be at least shoulder width distance or wider. And you may find that it's more comfortable to take your feet wider as well. In a moment, we're going to definitely go super wide, but let your feet be at least hip width distance, and you can play around with going a little bit wider if you need to. Bend your knees, stick your tushy way up and back. Feel your chest start to move towards your thighs. And then inhale, rise high on the balls of your feet, keeping your sit bones lifted. Exhale, bend your right knee, drawing your left heel towards the floor. Inhale, rise high on the balls of the feet. Exhale, bending the left knee, drawing the right heel towards the floor. Inhale, rise. Exhale, bend. Inhale, rise. And exhale, bend. Good. Inhale, rise. Exhale, bend both knees, stick the tushy way up and back. And then on your exhale, see how much can you straighten your legs and not get pushed into your upper back. So if you find that you're rounding in your upper back when you straighten your legs, you're going to want to keep a bend in the knees. And then from here, we're going to inhale, lift the right leg up in the air. Lift it as straight as you can. Keep your left arm super straight as the right leg lifts. And then see if you can stack your right hip on top of your left hip. Maybe you'll bend the knee, taking the knee towards the sky, the heel towards the bum, keeping the armpits kind of squaring off towards the mat as best you can. So we're just getting a little bit of a psoas stretch, hip flexor. And then inhale, reach the leg behind you, square off the hips. Exhale, pull the foot all the way through in between your hands at the front of the mat. So here's where you're going to want to have your blocks handy. And you'll take your blocks the tall way or whatever height's going to work for you. So do let your feet be about hip width distance here. If they're on a tightrope, it's going to feel hard to balance. And notice as you bend into the front knee, don't let the front knee go past the ankle, but do take a nice bend in the knee. Anchor down through that front heel, feel your front hamstring start to turn on, and hug your right outer hip back towards your left heel. Now, if you're on the first 2 weeks of your menstrual cycle, that's day 1 of your period to about ovulation, you're going to keep your left hand on the block and start to reach your right arm up into a twist. If you're on the second 2 weeks of your cycle, you're going to be in the same leg formation. You're just going to take your right arm straight ahead. So take a big breath in, wherever you are, and a big breath out. Keep your legs super firm, strong. One more breath. And exhale, bring both hands down onto the blocks. Continue to breathe here. Firm your legs. Move the blocks off to the side. I'm just going to move my blanket out of the way. Step back into plank position, top of a push-up. Take a breath in. And on your exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Take a big breath in and a big breath out, and you can even release through your mouth. Keep in mind that if you need to rest, you can always go down into child's pose at any time, so always listen to your body. Inhale, lift your left leg in the air. Notice that the right arm may try to bend a little bit. Keep it as straight as you can. And straighten that left leg and start to maybe stack that left hip on top of the right.
Maybe start to bend the knee, moving the knee towards the sky, the heel towards the bum, and breathing. And then on your next inhale, straighten the leg, level off the hip. And exhale, pull the foot all the way through in between your hands at the front of the mat. So you'll grab your blocks, set them up at whatever height you need. Start to just notice if your feet are on a tightrope, can you just take them about hip-width distance so you have the maximum amount of foundation and balance in your posture here. So your left outer hip's probably going to try to get a little bit sassy and go to the left. So keep hugging that left outer hip back towards your right heel, in towards the midline. And you're going to basically match whatever you did on the other side. If you came into the twist, you'll be in the twist on this side, shrugging your shoulders away from your ears. If you were with your arms straight ahead, you can do that. Your right hand on the block can be palm down, fists or fingertips. Fists or fingertips is going to be a little bit harder. Feel the power of your legs. And then gently release your left hand down, firming your legs, move your blocks, step back into plank position, top of a push-up. You can always drop your knees down. Take a breath in. And on your exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. So here's where we're going to take our feet either the width of the mat or maybe even wider. So if you're on a floor, wood floor or what have you, where you feel like you're not going to slip, then you can go even wider than your mat. So just do what feels right for you. And take a couple of breaths here. So when we begin to take the feet wider, it does make it easier usually in the upper back. The legs are working a little bit more, but also you have more space for the hamstrings. So just kind of feel into it. Notice the difference from our regular down dog to this one. Where can you soften? What can you surrender in this moment? Take another breath here. Do make sure that you have 10 toes pointing straight ahead, and then very softly start to walk your hands back to meet your feet. So we're coming to a wide-legged forward fold. Let your head go. If your hands don't easily touch the floor, you can take your blocks underneath your hands. You can also grab onto opposite elbows, which might feel really nice. So just kind of explore. I love this variation of forward fold because any forward folds usually allow our system to calm and cool. It allows us to tune inward in a little bit different way. But also in regards to the glands of the brain, our fertility, our endocrine system, we're really flooding the glands of the brain with blood, with oxygenated blood, if you will. And so if you're grabbing onto opposite elbows, go ahead and switch the cross of your elbows. Take a couple more breaths here. And you can play around here in your forward fold no matter where your arms are, with kind of shrugging your shoulders away from your ears but letting your head drop, and just kind of seeing like what feels most free for you in your neck and your spine. And then gently release your arms towards the floor. You're going to start to gaze forward, plant your palms, and walk your hands back out to that wide-legged dog. Very carefully walk your feet back onto your mat, about hip-width distance. Inhale, rock forward to plank position, top of a push-up. You can always drop your knees down here. And on your exhale, we'll all drop our knees. Drop your knees, hug your elbows in towards your side body, and lower your body down very carefully. So here, as we lay on our belly, I want you to take a moment and just turn your head to one side, let your arms come down by your side, and just let your body be heavy. Let this be a moment of rest, of respite. But keep your breath steady and start to notice when you breathe consciously and deeply, your Ujjayi breath if you can. Start to notice that your breath can be sent down deep into your belly. And that your belly begins to swell and push towards the floor. And it also creates space in your low back. So if you imagine all sides of your reproductive organs, just there being a little bit more spaciousness. Turn your head the other way. Now, one side of the neck is usually tighter than the other, so it might feel easier on one side than the other. Completely normal. And take another breath or two here. Feel how your body can just be heavy against the floor. And then very gently turn your forehead down to the mat and take your arms straight overhead. Now your hands are going to be about shoulder width or wider, really wider than shoulder width. And then let your feet reach back behind you. Let your feet be about hip width. 10 toenails pressing down on the floor. Allow your pubic bone to reach down towards the floor as well, so you have a lot of length in the low back. Keep your arms super straight. You're going to inhale, lift your head and heart. Elbows are off the floor. You're dragging your hands back towards you any amount. So it's a little bit of a back bend, kind of like a cobra pose with different arms. And then exhale, walk your hands back out as you come down. I call this Superwoman pose. And inhale. Arms are straight, collarbones wide. Only lift up as high as you can also feel long in your spine. And exhale. Again. Two more. My arms are super straight, collarbones broad, back of the neck long. Exhale. The last one. Slide your hands underneath your shoulders, and then very carefully, actually, just roll onto your back. However it's easiest for you to get there. And once you're on your back, hug your knees in toward your chest, and you can keep your knees super tight together, or you can take your legs apart. It doesn't really matter. Do what feels good. Might feel good to rock from side to side, massaging your low back sacrum, upper outer hips. So just kind of see what's feeling good like that. And then bring your knees together, bring a hand upon each knee. And with your legs towards you, you're going to then inhale, kind of push your legs away from you, start to open up the legs wide. And as you exhale, you're going to circle the legs back in towards you, towards your chest. So inhale the legs away and wide. And exhale, pull it back around. So this is called row the boat. So it's kind of like we're rowing the oars of the boat, right, in the water. And then you're going to just go the other way in reverse. So as you exhale, your legs are drawing toward you. Inhale, opening the legs wide and away from you. They start to draw together as you exhale. And last one. And then just hug your knees in towards your chest. Hug your knees as tight in towards your chest as you can also keep your low back sacrum dropping down towards the floor. And you might start to get some stretch or sensation at the front hip crease, so that's a good thing. You'll know you're doing it right, and take a couple breaths here, soften your shoulders. So we're creating kind of this tourniquet at the belly when our legs are kind of tied in and pushing against our belly in this way to draw some blood flow into that area. So take a couple more breaths here. Good, and then bring your feet down to the floor. And if you have a bolster or even like a thicker blanket fold handy, go ahead and just have that right on the side of you. If you don't have either, but you have a block, then you can utilize the block instead at its lowest height in what we're about to do. Okay, so with your feet hip width distance, hip width is that inner hip bone, go ahead and flip your palms up towards the sky. Let your arms kind of drift out to the place of ease on your shoulders. And on your inhale, push the backs of your shoulders down into the earth. As you exhale, let your ribs and your belly soften down toward your spine. And we'll take another breath like that. Inhale, feel the backs of your shoulders press. Exhale, pull the ribs down inside. And then push down through your feet. Lift your hips up. Keep your knees pointing straight ahead. You're going to take your prop, whichever one you choose, and you're going to slide it right under your low back sacrum. And there is kind of a sweet spot where we want to feel that the pelvis is being fully supported, but that our low back feels long. We don't feel like we're overarching in the low back. So here we're just in a really soft, supported bridge pose. A very soft one, but still. And what I love so much about these variations of bridge where the pelvis is supported is that I personally feel like, this sounds so strange, but I feel like the contents of my pelvis, my organs, relax. That they have the sense of, oh wow, I'm being held, but I'm kind of being lifted up and held, and I can just kind of relax. It's something about the way that gravity is on the body here. So hopefully it feels nice for you as well. And take a few breaths here. Now start to lift your knees and take your knees wide. So here you don't have to hold on with your hands. This is really just kind of a super soft version, sort of happy baby. It's kind of the same shape. There should be a heavy sensation to the legs, sense of grounding in the pelvis. And then very gently draw your knees together. Keep your right knee in. Bring your left foot down to the floor. Hug your right knee in, and you can, if you have like tender knees, you can grab on behind the thigh, or if you have tight shoulders, it's less of a reach to grab on behind the thigh. So either way, begin to see if you can straighten your left leg. So now, as we're here, you want to try to descend that left thigh bone towards the floor as much as you can, so that you start to get a stretch in the front hip crease, kind of the psoas as it comes through on this side of the body. And then your legs are moving in opposing lines of energy. Flexing both feet, take a couple of breaths here. If you ever feel like this is pulling on your low back, reposition what's underneath you, or perhaps just keep this left leg bent, so you don't want to feel any compression in your low back. Then very gently draw that left knee in and switch. And it might feel different from side to side. Push through your right inner heel, like you're pressing your right foot against the baseboard of a wall. Pulling your left knee in. Last breath here. gently draw both knees in again. Let the knees go wide. And then bringing the knees together, you can lower your feet down. Plug down through your feet. Inhale, feel the backs of your shoulders press. Exhale, absorb your ribs down and in. Scoop your tailbone towards the back of your knees and lift your hips. Remove your prop out of the way. Keep your hips lifted. Flip your palms up towards the sky. Keep your gaze towards the sky. Take a breath in, and on your exhale, lower a quarter of the way down. Hips are hovering. Take another breath in. Exhale another quarter of the way down. One more. Inhale, the backs of the shoulders press. Exhale, the ribs absorb, and we lower the hips all the way down. And then hug the knees in towards your chest. Give them a little squeeze. You can rock from side to side. And then take your knees wide and grab onto the back of each thigh with each hand. So again, we're back in that kind of happy baby shape of the legs. And you're not pulling your legs apart, you're not pushing them past their happy edge of sensation, but just letting the legs kind of drop open where they will. On your inhale, reach your right leg any amount straight and to the right without tipping your pelvis to the right. Exhale, bend. Inhale, reaching the left leg, and exhale, bend. So we're looking to stretch the inner thigh or adductors here. Inhale, exhale, bend, and inhale, and exhale, bend. One more each side. Good, and then keeping your knees wide, see if you can flex your feet and grab on either to the outer ankles or the outer edges of your feet for the full happy baby here. If this doesn't feel accessible for you, you can always keep your hands at the back of the thighs and keep your feet still stamping toward the ceiling. So just kind of figure out what's going to work for you. If your shoulders are lifting off the floor and your head looks something like this, you probably want to grab on lower just so that your shoulders can release, the neck can be long. You also want to feel that your sacrum can drop down. And very gently release. Bring your feet the width of the mat and let your knees tip in and rest upon one another. And you can bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your heart. Start to feel that the legs are heavy upon one another, really resting here. The inner groins are releasing. The body can begin to just feel soft and held upon the earth. And from here, you could stay in this shape for as long as you wanted. You could come into a more classical shavasana, kind of final resting pose, where you stretch your legs out. You could be here, use your props to support your body. Feel free to stay here if you're in the practice right now and you feel like your body really needs to rest. I would encourage that. Just for the sake of time today, I'm going to begin to wrap up our yoga for fertility practice today. So again, stay here as long as you want, if you wish. For those of you who are coming up and ready to wrap up the practice, just turn to one side, use the strength of your arms to press yourself up, and find your comfortable seat. Begin to close your eyes or soften your gaze down upon your cheeks, tuning your awareness inward, noticing how your body feels, the state of your mind, the quality of your breath. Floating the palms to the heart center, Anjali
letting those thumbs rest against your sternum and your chest or sternum rising up to meet your thumbs. Bowing the head, acknowledging the wisdom of your heart as you remember the intention set for your practice today. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. In our practice of fertility yoga, we say Namaste rather than Namaste. So the Divine Mother in me recognizes and acknowledges the Divine Mother in you. Namaste.